You think I want to play this format? Are you crazy? Who wants to play this format?
Combo is a huge problem right now, so much so that the past 2 formats has forced everyone to run like 6 million different hand traps in order to even stand a chance at just playing the game. For example, look at this. Here's a Marincess deck list. Here's a Code Talker deck list, a Dream Mirror deck list, Plunder Patrol, Medolce, Dino Wrestler, Evil Swarms, it's ridiculous! Dragon Link has found its way to the #1 spot in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's all thanks to these cards existing simultaneously. Everyone has their own opinion on what should be banned. Most people say Halki Fibrax, others say Linkross, or is Elpy okay on its own if we get rid of the others? It's hard to tell exactly, so today, we're gonna say fuck it and just ban them all. If we just remove all of these problem cards from the game, surely you'll never have to see a dragon combo ever again, right? That's what we're here to find out today, mainly because I genuinely believe that without all of these cards, a generic dragon deck is still going to be able to perform at least somewhat competitively and still be able to put up a decent board. It might be less consistent, it might be less powerful, but the dragon core by itself is just so strong that even when taking away all of these broken extra deck enablers, you can still actually do some pretty cool things. So I'm gonna go throw a deck list together and then we'll take it out for a spin and see how it performs without Elpy, Linkross, Busterlock, and Halki Vibrax. Alright, so we have a deck list here, and you can see that not much thought needed to go into this whatsoever. It's still just a big fucking pick and mix of starters and extenders. The nice thing about getting rid of all the degenerate extra deck stuff is that it takes a bunch of bricks out of the main deck and it frees up so much space in the extra deck, so much so that I just chucked in a bunch of random things. So 40 cards in the main deck with no hand traps, because we will be playing in an imaginary format with no Linkross, no Halki Fibrax, no Elpy, no Union Carrier, so they're not as important, and I really just want to test the capabilities of the deck by itself. The main goal of the deck is to go first and create a board of Spheres, Harbinger, and Savage, which is 3 interruptions, and we can summon a Sloth off of the Spheres as well for an extra deck lock on top of that. There isn't really a set combo to get to that board. The only requirements are access to Tracer and access to Galactic Spiral, and with Romulus getting us a Dragon Ravine, that guarantees us at least one of those pieces. So all we have to do on top of the Ravine is open up one of our 13 other pieces that gets us to either of those cards. The list itself is definitely not optimized. Like I said, I didn't put that much thought into it, and the side deck should just be completely ignored right now. I'm going to change that completely. The main point of the video is to just sort of prove that even without those big extra deck cards like Elpy, you can still play dragons and you can still do well with them. So let's go play some games. Alongside some random EDO Pro matches, I also asked my patrons for some duels, and so here we have a match against Noodle, who wins the rock, paper, scissors and chooses to blind second. With our 40 card deck just being jam-packed with so many generic good dragon cards, it's not uncommon to see broken hands like this where you're basically just guaranteed to get to your end board. Starting with our Black Metal Dragon, we of course go super plus by linking into the Striker Dragon, getting a search for Boot Sector Launch and for Red MD, and we can summon Noctovision from the hand as well, which is going to get us a draw when we link into Romulus, and we get a search for Ravine. Just a big fat plusage, which is just part of the standard dragon plays. Honestly, we don't even need to go into the Romulus here. We could just go straight into the Spheres because we already have access to Tracer and Galactic Spiral through Dragon Shrine and Quick Launch. With that kind of line of play though, the Savage would only have 1 negate on it with an equipped Striker Dragon, and where possible you want to push to have the 2 negates. So we're banishing our Striker Dragon here for Red MD, reviving the Black Metal Dragon, which is going to be our material for the Pisty setup, and then linking into Romulus to get our searches. I will say that there's quite a few misplays spread throughout the video, but like I said earlier, the point isn't about a perfect list or perfect gameplay, it's just about showing that dragons can still do things without the degenerate extra deck stuff. Here we draw into the Sloth, which is kind of unfortunate because it's like the one card you don't want to see in your hand, but spheres can still summon from hand anyway, so it's not too big a deal, just unfortunate. Using Dragon Shrine, we dump the Galactic Spiral here and then link into Pisty, which can trigger Romulus because it has an effect where if you special summon an extra deck dragon monster to a zone it points to, you can summon a dragon from hand, negate its effects, and that dragon cannot be used as a link material. So this is useful to like synchro into Savage, or for overlaying into the Harbinger with Galactic Spiral. It's not a main part of your combo, but it does come up sometimes to help you get to your board. Now this is a bit of a misplay. There's absolutely no reason for me to use or activate the Dragon Ravine because we don't need access to anything else in our deck. I do dump a Seyfert by pitching Absorouter so that I can get a Tracer to hand, but because I have Quick Launch in hand anyway, I could have just used that and then summoned the Absorouter as a free body to still get the search for Tracer. Doing it that way would have given us 2 extra materials on top of our 3-piece board, so we could have added in something like a Masquerena or a Verte Anaconda for Dragoon. So the ceiling of the board that the deck is capable of is definitely higher than just the standard Spheres Savage Harbinger, but obviously we want to be modest. Using Quick Launch here, I get out one of our level 4s to link into the Striker Dragon, which sets up our Pisty arrows and gets us a Hope Harbinger. I do summon Absorouter off the Pisty so that if they do beat over the Harbinger, we can trigger Absorouter and get our last Tracer to hand. Alternatively, I could have summoned the Seyfert with Pisty and activated its effect to get to the baby Chaos Dragons, so there's just so many different lines of play you can do that will lead you to the same end board, or better, as we've discovered. So Spheres, Harbinger, and Savage. Noodle finally gets to play. Let's see if he can break it. This right here is also a misplay where on the Spheres effect I summon Sloth from hand when there's no real threat of him being able to extend any further, so putting out an extra deck lock really hindered my own ability to OTK him on the next turn. This added a couple of extra turns to the duel, but we did eventually slap him with a Sanafond. Game 2, he chooses to go first and puts up a bit of a lackluster board, but then goes on to Nibiru us on our turn, and the deck without access to Herald or things like Parallel Exceed is definitely a lot more fragile to Nibiru. Levianeer is able to clean up the rest of his board, and then on the next turn we smack him with the token.
I cast Fist!
In total, I recorded 10 matches playing this deck, and we won 8 of them against decks like Lasha's Unchained and Fred's Cyber Dragons, and all round it just felt like we were playing an actual fair combo deck. Our only 2 losses were to Makoto's Dogmatic and Necros, because in game 3 I didn't see any of my 9 side cards and couldn't stop him getting to the Vanity's Fiend, which we just couldn't out. Then I also lost to a Salamangreat game 3 access code talker OTK. There was nothing I could do about that. So 8 wins out of 10 games really isn't bad though. But that's just the vanilla version of the deck with nothing too spicy going on. Realistically, if the ban list did yeet Linkross, Elpy, Halki Fibrax, and Union Carrier out of existence, you know fine well people are going to try and innovate and make the deck as degenerate as they can. So in that same vein, I'm going to reveal to you a little bit of spice here. It might work, it might not work, but ooh, it's a little bit spicy. So all we need is the release of this guy, Borrowland Dragon. An absolute monster of a Link 5 that can't be targeted or destroyed by battle or card effects. It also has a quick effect permanent negate that also revives a rocket from your graveyard, and the effect can't be responded to. Delingerous Dragon. Link 2, when this card is in your graveyard and you special summon a rocket, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. What do you get if you add any dark monster to Delingerous Dragon? You get the fresh out of jail Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche, a card that essentially gives you access to 2 Fog Blades basically for free. Now we're going to throw Quad Borrow Dragon into the mix. By using its effect to destroy a Link monster, we can revive rockets with different names from the graveyard up to the Link rating of that monster, and Rusty Bardiche is a Link 3, meaning 3 rockets from the graveyard. Now I'm going to show you the kind of board we can make with this, but the deck itself is still a work in progress, so if you do want to see a part 2 to this kind of video with this version of the deck, let me know.
slow down.